Woo! The St. Louis Cardinals had us there for a moment, but they avoid a sweep on Wednesday in what will be forever known as the Ivan Herrera game. The young Cardinals catcher went deep for 3 home runs to take a 12-5 win over the Los Angeles Angels, avoid a sweep, and now head into the series against the Boston Red Sox this weekend with a 4-2 record. We're going to break down this series, the offensive firepower we've seen from the Cardinals in the first 2 series of the year, and kind of our overall thoughts on the series loss to the Angels, but big picture, what does this mean for the season on this episode, Dealing the Cards. Whew. Andrew, like, I think it was like top of the 7th inning or something like that, I think. I started going back to our last episode and clipping the part where I said they're either going to sweep or get swept because it definitely was trending that direction after Sonny Gray gave up the grand slam to Logan Hoppe. And if this was the 2024 Cardinals, I would have had zero confidence in them coming back. That's a backbreaker. This team probably strikes out every at bat for the rest of the game, fails. And actually, no, the bottom of the ninth, they'll get runners on and make you think, oh, maybe this is the time they finally come through. And then they don't. Instead, they respond the next inning by tying the game up 5-5. We can debate if that was a failure of an inning or not because they couldn't take the lead. But then at the bottom of the 8th inning, man, they go off for 7 runs. Again, Ivon Herrera hits 3 home runs in the game. The Cardinals are the first team since the Rockies and someone else in 2015 to start their first 6 games of the year with 10 or more hits in every game, which is just, again, light years difference from last year, it feels like. The Cardinals' young bats are hitting right now. So we'll get into all that in this episode and more. But as you kind of reflect on this Angels series, Andrew, how are you feeling coming out of what is a series loss? But again, there's a lot of encouraging signs within it as well. Again, there are some things to be worried about, but what is your overall perspective on how the series of the Angels went? And we got Sandy joining in now too, so we'll jump in. But Andrew, what's your thoughts on the series?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to drop a series to the Angels, and Sandy's gone again.
I put
that's
it out.
Weird. But I mean, the offense looked really good. The losses were frustrating, but I feel like the things that we're looking at for the team.
I think you're good.
Yeah, no, I think it's coming through on Sandy's end. But I think the things that we're looking at the start of the season that were keys to success for the Cardinals are going the way that we want them to be, right? Jordan Walker is taking great at bats, and he's really hitting the ball hard. He had a big homer yesterday. Unfortunately, it didn't matter. The Cardinals still lost, but he's looked really, really sharp at the plate. Victor Scott looks no longer helpless at the plate, and he looks like an actual solid major league hitter. I'm sure the league will adjust to him at some point throughout the season. He's not going to be hitting 370 the entire year, but so far he looks like he can hold his own, and everything that we want to see out of him is happening. Nolan Gorman still isn't getting all the playing time that I want, and I think that's a little bit frustrating, but I think he's only struck out once this year, and that'll happen more and more with Nolan Gorman. That's what we expect, but he looks like he's seeing the ball better. He looks like 2023 Nolan Gorman during some of those hot stretches, and I think if he gets some more favorable matchups against the Red Sox and the Pirates, you could start to see that home run number go up a lot. And Ivon Herrera, obviously 3 homers today. Not really much else to say. That's really exciting for him, starting to turn into the hitter that we all know he can be. And Lars Nootbaar as well, just keeps getting on base, keeps hitting the ball hard. Everybody that we were worried about at the start of the season was like, this is really important for the Cardinals' future to get going. They're starting to play like we think they can play. And I think that raises the expectations of this team a little bit. I think this team can go further than we thought because a lot of these players look ready, and we thought there might be a little bit of an adjustment period for a Jordan Walker, especially with the ugly spring that he had, but he looks ready to go. Everybody, for the most part, aside from Wynn and Contreras, who both had big hits today, look like they're really sharp, and it's starting to look like what we thought the 2024 team could have been if the offense had been what it was advertised to be. And the pitching still looks a little bit shaky at times, but I mean, the pitching is not really supposed to be the exciting part of this roster, right? Like it's the young bats, and the young bats look really, really good.
Yeah. A couple things. Just don't look at the stats if you aren't right now, or if you are, just look away for a second. How many Cardinals do you think have a 500 on base percentage or better right now?
Probably like 4.
Yeah, 4 or 5, maybe more if we're counting
6.
guys with small sample sizes.
6. Yeah, small sample sizes. You get Luke and Baker in there.
Okay, well,
and Gorm.
yeah.
How many guys do you think have a 1,000 OPS or better right now?
4.
I think it's everyone except Donovan, Contreras, and Wynn.
It's
Not
7.
Burleson doesn't.
7
Burleson.
guys don't. Scott doesn't. Burleson doesn't. Donovan doesn't. Wynn doesn't. Contreras doesn't. But Baker, Gorm, Newt, Herrera, Arenado, Walker, Pages all do. And then Scott has a 900 OPS right now. So it's just been, they've been on fire to start so far. And Sandy, we just talked about right before you jumped in, the Cardinals are the first team since, I think it's the Rockies and someone else since 2015 to have 10 or more hits in their first 6 games. Ivon Herrera, obviously the first Cardinals catcher in franchise history to hit 3 bombs in a game. What's kind of been your thoughts again coming out of the series where it's disappointing that they lost it for sure, but we have seen this offense explode, and I think all three of us would agree that was the number one question coming into the year is what is this offense going to look like, and so far it's been a major strength.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been fine. The offense is very solid so far. The first 2 games of the series here, like the run totals didn't look terrible, but a lot of those were scored in extras. So like last night, for example, they only scored 3 runs in the first 9 innings of play. 4 came through in extras, obviously. So maybe that is a little issue. But today obviously was great. You got a lot of power too, which is nice. Power was a major problem for the Cardinals last year. I'm still not super encouraged by what I've seen with runners in scoring position. This was a tough series for the Cardinals until that final inning where they erupted. But overall, like not a lot of complaints here. I agree with most of what Andrew said, although to play devil's advocate, like you've still got a couple guys starting slow. Like Donovan started pretty slow. Burleson started pretty slow. Obviously, Wynn and Contreras have started very slow. But it was nice to see them get some big hits today, especially Wynn coming through with 2 hits late in that game. Maybe he's going to start seeing the ball better here. I am a little like, obviously Gorman had a great game, but he's only played 1 game. You know, I mean, I can't really draw anything from that. So I'm just excited to see these guys get some more bats, get some bigger sample sizes to talk about here. But yeah, it's really nice. I think the big developments were already mentioned, but it's Victor Scott looking in control at the plate. He took a great at bat today when he drew a walk late in the game. Saw 5 pitches, didn't swing at anything outside. Love to see that. And then Jordan Walker. Last year, it felt like any pitch on the outside half just absolutely burnt him. But this year, he's dealt well with that. He's laid off stuff outside. He's managed to do damage to pitches inside the zone. He had a 9-pitch at bat earlier today where he swung at every ball in the zone and didn't swing at anything outside the zone. That was really impressive to me. For a guy that last year had a lot of trouble maintaining the zone, he did a great job. We need to see more from him, of course, just like all these other guys. We're only talking about 6 games here, so it's really hard. But I love to see that. So that for me is the big thing. And it's just some weird games too. These games against the Angels were super weird. Like Sonny Gray looks great for 5 innings, forgets how to pitch in the 6th all of a sudden. You know, I mean, I don't really know what you do with that. Same goes for yesterday. It doesn't matter who Kyle Hendricks pitches for. It doesn't matter where the game is. It doesn't matter how old he is, apparently. He still owns the Cardinals. It's just a weird game. You know, I've learned never take anything seriously from Kyle Hendricks' start at this point. Maybe my least favorite player to ever watch play against the Cardinals. And even that first game was weird. Donovan made a weird play in extra innings. It was just an odd loss. Felt like the Cardinals had a lot of opportunities. So we just got to see what happens next. They're going to face some good competition on this road trip. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
I want to refute the runners in scoring position thing for a second. And Andrew, I've never said this in the history of our channel, but get ready for a social media clip right here. The Cardinals are second in all of baseball right now in at-bats with runners in scoring position. Only behind the Cubs. They have 68 so far. They're 6th in batting average and 5th in OPS with runners in scoring position right now. I think when you see it so often, then it's like every time they get out, it's like, oh, they missed another opportunity. Well, they have the 2nd most opportunities in all of baseball so far, and they're converting on them 6th best. Like,
I was talking about just the series. Like, it was great in the Twins series.
Yeah. But it's, I mean, it wasn't bad in this series.
It just wasn't like right around 200 batting average. It was fine.
I think it was higher than that.
They were 6 for 29 going into that 8th inning. That's what I know.
Okay, but that's also like, this is part of the series. So like, I mean, they took the game today with that big 8th inning. And so I understand that you can pour it on in 1 inning and inflate stats a little bit, but this is like light years different than they were historically bad last year with runners in scoring position. Now they're top 6. Again, it's a 6 game. So I'm not trying to tell you all year long they're going to be top 6 in baseball runners in scoring position. But to go from historically bad to now they have the 2nd most opportunities, which is telling you they're getting guys on base consistently, which is one of the things I love about this team so far. Again, they're collecting hits like no other. They're taking the walk when it's there. The bases loaded situation, I love that you see a walk from both Burleson and Contreras. Last year, I think Burleson, he was really bad against lefties, and for him to fight in that at bat and draw a walk out of it, I think is a big deal. Obviously, the Contreras at bat, all 4 pitches are out of the zone. It's like if you just wanted any of those, it would have been so bad. But they don't beat themselves anymore, and that felt like an issue with them all the time. They beat themselves, and especially with runners in scoring position, it's like strikeout, 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 double play, strikeouts, always the worst possible outcomes.
Yeah.
And they're finding ways to scratch across runs consistently. Again, I'm not here to tell you that like we shouldn't monitor it necessarily, but I do think so far like we're making a little bit too big of a deal out of the runners in scoring position stuff, considering the fact that again they have the second most appearances in all baseball, and they're converting as a top 10 team easily right now. I think it's all you can ask for, and then especially when you have Mason Wynn and Wilson Contreras, who both until this game were not able to get a hit at all. Like that's real. Like the lineup finds them, and so there's been multiple opportunities where Wilson Contreras has kind of been like the buck stopper of an inning, or Mason Wynn has had 2 guys on or bases loaded, and he's been the one who's been like, dude, like do something, and that can be brutal for an offense. Almost so like we're talking about a lineup that has 7 guys with a 900 OPS or 1,000 OPS or better, but they're still not always coming through because at some point when you have 2 guys in the lineup, one's batting second, one's batting ninth, who do not virtually nothing, who are doing literally nothing at the plate, it kills it. And so like once they can at least be like a 500 OPS guy, like that helps keep the lineup churning too and moving around. But anyways, I just want to say that because I think that's something we need to we need to monitor that going forward. But so far, it's very enlightening to me. It's eye-opening that they went from historically bad to this good.
Absolutely. And one thing is like in the first 2 games of the series, it does need to be mentioned that there were problems. They had a lot of opportunities they didn't convert. But in this game, it was great. They did their job. They got the job done, pushed a bunch of runs across late to take a big lead and win the game, which was awesome. But yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is too, you mentioned all the opportunities they've had. That's the other thing. Last year, they were historically bad, and they also didn't even have that many opportunities because the offense also just stunk regularly. So it's nice to see them creating opportunities for themselves and coming through. It's a 2-part equation, and they're doing both things pretty well right now.
Yeah. Game 1, they batted 200 with runners in scoring position. Last night, they batted 250. And so it's like, even then, it's like, okay, 200, it's not a good game. You got to do better than that. But even then, they pushed across 4 runs, which should have been enough. They blew that game. But that was probably their worst offensive performance of the season. Game 2, they score. Obviously, they went to extra innings, so that inflates things. But they scored 7 runs. You had the ghost runner, so let's say even just 6 runs in that game. But they bat 250 run in scoring position. You can get by with that. If you go 250 for the year, you should win more games than what they did last year, clearly. Sure. And then this game, I haven't even looked at that yet, but it's probably over 300, I would think, with how the 8th inning went. But runners scoring position, the Cardinals were 4 for 11. Oh, actually, not even that great. It was 4 for 11. So that might be worse than what's 4 for 11. Actually,
4 for 11 is like 360.
Okay, so it's a little. Actually, it is in 300s. I was not doing the math well right there. But anyways, and again, am I wrong, guys? It feels like last year's team, and especially 2023, like that Sonny Gray inning happens, game over. Like the Cardinals roll over. Last year, that inning happens, or the 10th inning happens last night. Like those things happen, and it's game. They're not coming back. They're rolling over. And this team, yeah, you can literally turn. And this team, again, it doesn't mean they're going to win all these games because clearly they lost the first 2. But I feel like they don't, like we've talked about the vibes. They do not feel tight anymore. I feel like they were afraid to fail all the time. And this team is like, okay, on to the next. Next half inning, let's put up some runs. Let's figure this out.
I do think last year's team deserves more credit than it's getting here. The 2023 team just rolled over all the time. Like that team was terrible. Last year's team, like they fought, you could tell. And there were games that they won after putting up a great fight. Especially during that like nice stretch in June, like late May, June. But yeah, this team feels even more fun. It feels like they're even more in it. And it just feels like they're having fun out there, which is really nice. Because, I mean, you didn't see any of that in 2023. You saw some of it last year. And now I just think it's these guys have some confidence. I think Jordan Walker looks really good. I think this is the best Jordan Walker's ever looked. He hit another ball 116 miles an hour today. It's really exciting stuff. He's making hard contact. He's not swinging at stuff outside the zone. I think these guys have got to be excited by how far Victor Scott has come, stuff like that. So, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. They do look like they've got more fight. But I don't want to say last year's team had no fight. That was the 2023 team.
The 2023 had zero fight. The 2024 team had enough fight until they got runners in scoring position.
Yeah.
It was like they give you hope and then they can't do anything.
Terrible.
And so like the 2023 team just lost hope. The 2024 team like crumbled under the pressure is what I guess. So let's thank a couple of the sponsors of the podcast real quick. And I think Andrew has probably been waiting to go off about Ivon Herrera because the past few days he's been so mad about the Pedro Paez stuff. And then, of course, Ivon Herrera has a game. So we need to give you your floor. But thanks to 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're located at 9640 All Boulevard and all of that. Open 10 to 5 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. They buy, sell, and trade all sports cards and Pokemon cards. Andrew's going to rip a pack on stream right now, actually, so you can go ahead and do that, Andrew, if you want. They have the newest packs, boxes, and single cards of local players and stars from around the league. Go check them out. It feels like a lot of you have been going in more frequently lately. We get DMs in our Discord or on Twitter about some of you want to check them out. So go check out 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. They're awesome to work with, and they've got a great stuff going on. So Xavier Edwards of the Marlins. There you go.
That card's kind of funny given what happened this week.
Which one?
The one on the back.
I didn't see it.
Oh, I saw it because it's on the back.
Oh, the very last card. Okay,
yeah.
This will be interesting. It's not been a great pack so far, but Alsanya Kim. I don't even know how to know if they're numbered and stuff. But what's the last one?
Wait.
Oh, Nolan.
I got a shiny Michael McGreevy card.
Wow, loaded in the pack.
Yo, okay. Maybe this is a sign that they should call him up for the rotation.
Maybe.
Oh,
wow, Arenado. Here we go. That looks nice. I like that card. Oh, yikes. So make sure you go check out 314. They've got awesome packs, boxes, cards that you're looking for, all that kind of stuff there. We also want to let you know about one of our other sponsors, Underdog Sports. The Deal on the Cards podcast is proud to be partnered with Underdog Sports, our favorite place to play fantasy games. You're now eligible to play in Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, and 37 other U.S. states. You got to check out Pick'em. It's so easy to play. You just pick 2 to 8 stats of your favorite players and choose whether they'll go higher or lower. You can win 20 times your money by going 5 for 5. If that sounds like fun, sign up with our promo code CARDS to claim your first free pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. We can't wait to see your entries. Yeah, make sure to go check out Underdog. They're super fun to play games, fantasy games with. Again, use our promo code CARDS. You use the link in the description if you want to check them out. I've been doing stuff with the Cardinal games, and it's been going well so far. I don't think I've missed one on a Cardinal game yet, so I'm feeling pretty good about that. But yeah, go check them out. So, Andrew, Ivon Herrera went off today. Tell us your thoughts.
I mean, Ivon Herrera is just amazing offensive catcher. Like, you can't ask for someone probably has the best offensive numbers out of any catcher in the league right now. I can't imagine someone else is doing better. Although I have been watching some Dodgers and Will Smith is hitting like 600, so maybe I'm wrong there.
A 3-homer game in 6 games,
right? But Ivon Herrera should just let him play as often as he's able to, as often as his knees allow him to. I was kind of afraid when Pedro Paez hit that home run against the Twins. I was like, oh no, now he's going to get a bunch of playing time. And it was frustrating to see him get pulled out of that first game a little bit prematurely. I wasn't really a huge fan of Ollie's reasoning there, and even though I'm probably the biggest Ollie supporter in the world, I'm not entirely sure why there's this obsession with Pedro Paez, because defensively it's better, but it's not that much better where it warrants pulling Ivon Herrera out of games where it's close enough where the Angels came back and then you did need that bat in the lineup, and then you had Pedro Paez pop out with the winning run on second base. There's just little things like that where I know he had that defensive error where he just forgot how many strikes there were and didn't really pick over to second when he needed to. But the bat is clearly so much better than anything Pedro Paez could do, hitting the ball extremely hard, having really good at bats. Obviously, 3-homer game. It's the only time a Cardinal catcher has ever done that. And this is power we haven't really seen. I think he only hit 5 homers last year, and he's already at 3 on April 2nd, 6 games into the season. I could definitely see him approaching that 20 mark later this year if he gets that playing time that he needs, and he's showing exactly what he is a very capable offensive catcher. Need to get work on the running game. That's fine. We know about that. That's not really something that I think we should be that concerned about, right? Because this team is not really supposed to go anywhere this year, right? Like that's not the expectation, at least going into the season. I think this team could be really good, and this team, I know, right? That's crazy.
What?
I think this team has the raw talent to be really good. Is that going to be this year? Maybe, maybe not. Is that going to be next year? Probably. I think a lot of these pieces are starting to prove themselves at the major league level, get that experience. And I don't really think it's beneficial to Ivan Herrera to be like, hey, we don't actually trust you in late innings in a close game to throw out base runners and not give him that chance, because he's not going to improve at throwing out base runners if he never gets a chance to throw out base runners. You know, like that's not.
But like, it's really bad though.
I know
It is
bad.
really bad.
It's really bad.
Jordan Walker's defense was really bad, and you know how he got a little, like he's looked better this season.
I think that's a different case.
I think that's just by running him out there.
It's different because you don't. Not every play involves the right fielder, so you can hide a little bit when you're bad defensively in the field. Then the Pedro Pages, Ivan Herrera. What was that?
Didn't Herrera throw out a runner like in the Twin Series? I thought he did, but
yeah, they didn't run on Herrera today. Kareem's right, but like if I was going against Herrera, Ron Washington not running on Herrera is dumb. Like read the scouting report. I would run all over him. I'd run to third too on Herrera. Like it's bad. I'm a huge Ivon Herrera fan, just like you. It was awesome. Each of those balls was absolutely crushed. The second one went off the fries. The third one was deep in Big Mac lane. It was unbelievable. 2 off the bat today with an exit velo over 110. That's elite stuff. That's like top of baseball elite power right there. You know, he could be amazing. He could be one of the best offensive catchers in the league right now. You're absolutely right, Andrew. But late in the game, like it's terrible. When you've got the ghost runner on second, if Ivon Herrera is behind the plate, that guy can end up on third immediately. And then all of a sudden from third, a sac fly wins the game. Like that's the type of thing you got to be worried about. Yes, there are other reasons.
Third off Herrera yet?
What'd you say?
I don't think anyone's taken third off Herrera yet.
No, they haven't. No one's run to third off Herrera. I'm just saying that's what I would do. Like there's a block, there's something going on. He cannot throw out runners at the big league level right now. And so I understand the Cardinals not going to him in those situations. I just get it.
How is he going to get better?
Well, again, it's not like you can't only practice throwing in a game. He can go and practice, like when he had the off day yesterday, which I'm interested to see how this goes. Oh, I'm having an Amber Alert, so okay, we might have a
tornado warning.
Yeah, might be. I was gonna say that what do you call it? He's trying to throw off his knees now. Instead of get up and pop, he's gonna try and throw off his knees. I think that could be an interesting way to go about this for him. I don't know if it'll work. Ollie seemed optimistic about it. I do think late in the games, like 8th and 9th inning, when they have a lead, I'm fine going to Pages there. I thought they went too early in game 1. That was weird to me, the 7th inning, because they immediately gave it the lead, and then you have Pages taking multiple at-bats in big spots. I thought game 2, it was really weird that they didn't go to Ivan in the 7th or the 9th inning. I might have to, I guess we have a tornado siren right now, so I might have to hop off here in a second. But so that was really disappointing too. But and it also Pages is gonna play, right? Like there's no catchers playing 162 anymore. Cal Riley played 130 something the other day, or last year, which is cool. But Ivan's not gonna play like 130 games at catcher. So you're gonna see Pages some, but Herrera should be playing 110, maybe up to 120, but probably like 110 games. And then they need to put his bat in line more often. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, I understand that Pedro Pages is going to play, right? Like even Yadi towards the end of his career was not playing every single day. You had like guys like Kisner that were playing a lot, but like Ivon Herrera just needs to be in that lineup. And whether that's, I mean, man, the Arenado trade stuff is so frustrating because he's playing so well. Like I enjoy having him. This is a good problem to have. Oh, we just lost Josh.
Don't let the tornadoes get you, Josh.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's just us now. So, I mean, it's hard with this lineup to figure out where to get everyone playing time, right? Because Arenado is playing really well, and yeah, you could probably trade him now. Maybe you could probably get some value back for him, but is that really a smart idea to do? Probably not, right? And everyone like in this lineup, barring Contreras and Wynn, who are also like guys you can't really sit. It's not like Jordan Walker is 0 for his first 21, and you have an option and you can send him down to AAA. Like you can Mason Wynn has options, but no one can play shortstop on this team except for him. Also, he's a guy that can break out of it and be a quality hitter. And I just like it's a good problem to have, where you have all these guys that are hitting really, really well, and even the guys off your bench, like Luke and Baker is hitting like 600. Nolan Gorman has looked really good to start, and I think he should be prioritized over Burleson. We've talked about that like way in depth, but it's really exciting, and it's a good problem for Ollie to have. I just would like to see Herrera in there more, even when he's not, catching.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously want to see more of Herrera too. Like, we're super high on what he can be. We were high on him all offseason. He's a really talented player. But at the same time, Josh is right. Like, catchers aren't going to play every day. And I wouldn't be shocked if Herrera only played about 2/3 of the games for the first couple months of the season. Maybe they'll move that up to about 3/4 as the season goes on. I think we've talked about that sort of ratio there. But it's not shocking to see him not play every day. Like, no catcher plays every day anymore. And I know that we're probably frustrated with how much he's gotten, but the defensive question marks are pretty big. And Pies isn't necessarily the greatest at throwing out runners, but like, he can do it. He can hold somebody, which is really important. Also, I don't know if the Cardinals help Herrera and or Pies out at all. Like, our old rotation takes forever to get to the plate. Like, guys steal off Miles Michaelis all the time. That might be his own fault too, because he may not hold the runners close or, whatever. And we got a lot of righties, so it's probably easier to steal off them as well because they're not looking at first. So obviously that matters, but the defensive question marks are real. Also, Pies has some nice stuff defensively. Like, he's got a nice pop time. That's well above average. He's a solid framer. He's a really good blocker. And those are things that he probably does as well as, if not better than Herrera. Also, like, I know that people won't like this answer, but last year, like, when Pies played, the Cardinals did a lot of winning. And I know people don't care for that, but there was a point in time last year when among all qualified catchers, Pies had the highest winning percentage. Like, every time he was playing last year, the Cardinals were winning. That's probably a lot of coincidence, but there might be something to that. Guys like throwing to him. That's obvious. Like, the pitching staff has been very clear that they really do like throwing to Pajes. You got to listen to those guys. Like, that matters. I think Herrera calls a nice game. I think Herrera called a couple of really good games to start the season. I think that matters too. And I don't think there's anybody that's saying, I don't want to throw to Herrera. It's not like the Flaherty Contreras drama we had 2 years ago, which, by the way, was ridiculous. But I do think that matters. The other thing is, to play a bit more devil's advocate, it's not like Pajes has been horrendous at the plate so far this year. I know it's a small sample size, but if we're going to talk about small sample with Gorman, Pajes has at least taken 10 at-bats. He has 4 hits and a home run. He's got a 228 OPS plus over that very small sample size. He's a capable player. Having him in the lineup isn't necessarily the worst thing ever. I don't think he's like the black hole offensively that people occasionally make him out to be. He's obviously not great, but even last year when people had a lot of complaining to do, and that was fair, there were a couple of things to not really hate about him. He wasn't necessarily a great hitter, but he wasn't like bottom 10% in xWOBA. He was like 15th to 20th percentile in most offensive stats. Average exit velo was up around 89, which is actually on par with a lot of other guys in this lineup. So maybe that says more bad about the rest of the team than Pajes. But those aren't always awful things. So I get where you're coming from, and I do want Herrera to get into the lineup more, and I think he will. But I don't think it's necessarily the worst thing ever that they've gone to Pajes, especially in the late innings, because you said, like, hey, the big thing with this team is proving what you have. And I agree with that. But also, look, this team might be able to do some winning. I think they're opening some eyes already. Lost a couple weird games to the Angels, but had a great series against the Twins. A lot of positives in this series as well. So I don't know. I appreciate Ollie prioritizing winning. And the last thing is, too, like, Ollie's job is on the line this year, of course. He knows that. And he might get fired even if the team does do a lot of winning this year, because Albert Pujols is probably going to be available next offseason. But he needs to win games. Like, you can't tell a manager, hey, like, make this long-term decision at the expense of yourself. The last thing he needs is to take questions from the media that say, why didn't you try to win tonight? And he says, well, I was trying to figure out what I knew about Ivan Herrera as a defensive catcher, instead of, I wanted to win the game. So that's the last thing here. I just think that really matters too. And you got to understand the position Ollie's in. But it doesn't mean we're going to agree with every decision he makes. Probably should have pinch hit Ivan Herrera a little earlier.
No, and I really understand that Ollie is trying to win games. And I do think it's important to win games. Like, I was at Busch on Thursday for opening day, and it was really packed. And then I was watching some of the other games on TV, and I was like, this is not great. And if tickets are still a little bit expensive on these third-party sites, you can use code News on SeatGeek to save $20 if you want to go ahead and do that. A shameless plug for our SeatGeek promo code, but like it's getting bad, and they're announcing attendances that are close to dipping under 20K, which is just something that hasn't happened in the era of this stadium. I don't think since the stadium was built, like it's even gotten close to this bad. But I mean, I definitely think that it's important to keep the fans engaged by putting out a winning product. But I really don't think, like, I understand the running game is important, but I really don't think, like Pedro Paez's OPS plus is what like 200 or whatever,
228, yeah,
228. That's really inflated by one home run off Bailey Ober, who was
sure,
sick.
but like you can say that with anybody's early season stats. Like you're talking about how Nolan Gorman looks good. He's played one game. It's the same thing. And I do understand that there's way less projectability with Pages, but like he's been fine so far, and I'm fine with him getting play appearances.
Well, Nolan Gorman has the track record, right? He has 35 homer potential, as we saw in 2023. Like if he had stayed healthy and played the whole year, he would have hit 35 homers.
Yeah.
But like,
I mean, Pages has a track record of winning games though, and being a good defensive catcher.
I mean,
like, they like him.
And the one thing I do want to hammer home is that, like, sometimes like letting these young guys play, like we say this about McGreevy and Michaelis, and Michaelis had a fine start the other day, so I'm not gonna go at him. Like the stuff didn't look great, but he got the job done.
Yeah.
Right. Like we can say that about him, but in the long run, is giving Michael McGreevy a chance really worse than running out Miles Michaelis? Like, are you going to win less games because Michael McGreevy is pitching? I don't think so. And I think the same thing goes for like playing Ivon Herrera. You might lose a little bit of that defense, but you also might get a 3-homer day, right? Like if Pedro Pages started today, the Cardinals would have lost.
Okay, we don't know that for sure. We don't know they would have lost for sure.
Ivon Herrera contributed the first like 4 runs of the game, and then he hit another homer to like really and like anyway.
Yeah, he had the solo, the 2-run shot, and the 3-run shot. Absolutely.
I don't think.
I'm not saying it's not.
Yeah, and I really don't think like it's bad to run him out there like once in every 3-4 games. I think that's necessary to get catchers off their get catchers the rest that they need so they don't get hurt. Like we've seen what happened to Contreras. And if Herrera got hurt, that would be terrible. Like we would not want to think about that at all. But I'm saying that giving these guys run, especially this goes for McGreevy, this goes for Herrera, this goes for Nolan Gorman. There's just some of these guys that, like, we know what Burleson can be, and he's been getting those, he's been drawing those pinch hit spots more than Nolan Gorman, which to some extent, like today with the runner on third, Burleson still didn't get the runner home. Like he grounded out pretty sharply to first base. And I can see why you went with Burleson over Nolan Gorman, because you just need to get that run home, and you don't need that power potential from Nolan Gorman, who's more likely to strike out. At the end of the day, Burleson grinding out and Gorman striking out would have been the exact same thing. But like, I definitely think that you need to give the opportunities to the guys who, one, can make your team better next year, which is Nolan Gorman. I think he has a higher ceiling. And Ivon Herrera and Michael McGreevy and all these guys that we've been talking about. And two, I don't think any of these guys we're talking about really give you make your chances of winning the games any worse, right? Like if Nolan Gorman's DHing more than Alec Burleson, sure, you might get an 0 for 4 with 3 strikeout game from Nolan Gorman. Alec Burleson might go like 2 for 5 with a double or something. But Nolan Gorman could also give you a 3-homer game like Ivon Herrera did today. And I don't think Alec Burleson – I say that he's going to have 3-homer games on Friday. But
I'm not disagreeing with you on any of this. But I do think, again, like Herrera's inability to control the running game is a big deal.
Yeah.
Like last year, it was killing us at times. It's bad. Teams ran 4 or 5 times a night against him at one point last year. And like, that's really, really bad. And also like being the franchise that, being a Cardinals fan that grew up watching Yachty, like Yachty didn't have to throw guys out all the time because nobody ran on him ever. Nobody ran on Yachty for a period of like 15 years. And I was totally spoiled. Actually, more than that, almost 20 years. I was totally spoiled to watch Yachty or Molina growing up. But like going straight from that to Herrera's inability to control the run game is a bit jarring. The other thing is too, like the difference between this and the Michaelis McGreevy case, or even the Burleson Gorman case, it's probably similar to that actually. But it's the fact that like Pius is also a young guy, and he's also a guy that whether you like him or not, like the team is including him in future decisions. Pedro Pajes is probably going to be on the roster next year, and he's probably going to be on the roster the year after that. And he's fine at what he does. Like, I don't think Pajes is going to take 400 at bats this year. Like, that's not going to happen. Herrera is going to get the vast majority of at bats. Pajes is never going to DH unless they were like 5 deep with injuries and there's no other way to do it. Like if they were ever in a pinch, Herrera would play first before Pajes would, that kind of thing. Like, they're not going to pinch hit Pajes unless they're using him as a defensive replacement, which it's not likely to me. So you've got all these things that are going to work out in Herrera's favor. None of them have come into effect yet, but I think it's fine. Like Pajes is going to be the backup catcher for a while, and he's a good backup catcher. Like it's been way worse before. Remember Trace Barrera as the backup catcher? Like it's been much worse. So I don't think it's too big a deal. I think it's going to be just all right.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm being a little bit. See, sometimes there's these guys that I just don't want to see, and I think I'm sorry, Pedro Pajes. Nothing against him. I just really like Ivon Herrera, really high on the bat, and I'm excited after today's game. It was definitely just really good stuff from him. Do you want to hit on the attendance thing really quick? I know a lot of people are talking about it, and I know you're very passionate about it. You can't attend games for a little bit longer, but I'm sure you'll be at them pretty soon.
Yeah, I hate low attendance. I think it's ridiculous. In St. Louis, like there's 3.3 million people in the St. Louis metro area. Let's go. Let's get to these games, guys. Come on. People complain about how expensive it is to attend a baseball game. And I hear that, but I also disagree with that for the most part. Like I park for free. Okay. I really don't buy a lot of concessions in the ballpark. I get that you can run up a big tab at a baseball game. And I hear that, if you're getting out there and you're buying like 3 hot dogs, a couple of beers, a soda, a bag of chips, right? Like it gets really expensive really fast. And I get that. And, the DeWitts and the Cardinals, they do want people to buy concessions, but you don't have to. You don't have to spend any money in the stadium once you're in there. And I don't. I really generally don't. Maybe I'll get a drink or two, and that's about it. I park for free. I know I walk a long way, but that's worth it to me. And there's cheap parking that's not at the lots that, kind of screw you and jack up the prices. Like you can find stuff a couple blocks from the stadium, and there is free parking around Busch. You just have to look for it. I'm not going to give my secret up because I like to park there. But I go to the games, and it's worth it, and it's really fun. I went to a ton of games last year. I went to a bunch of games in 2023, and even when the team's not great, I do love being at Busch, and I think it's important to be there. I think it's important to show our support to the team, and I understand people that say, I'm not giving the DeWitts another dime. You don't have to go to the games. Buy your tickets resale. Don't spend any money on concessions, right? But go support the team, support the boys, be there for these guys, because at the end of the day, if you love the Cardinals and if you're a Cardinals fan, you're going to go to the games. Like you can buy your tickets resale. You can buy them from a friend who has tickets. Like you can figure it out and get there for very cheap. I think I've been to the game before for less than $10. Like there are times when gas money is probably the biggest expense for me getting down to the stadium, because if you're using Code Newt News on SeatGeek, you can basically get your tickets almost for free on there at least once.
Well, you have to spend $50 or more. So not really.
Oh, well, you know what? I didn't do that. But buy your tickets resale. Like you can get $3 tickets before processing fees, especially day of. Like you can figure it out. Standing room tickets are super cheap. And once you get there, I know that you're probably not supposed to say this, but like you can move to whatever seat you want on a game like this. I've had tickets in the 4th deck, and I've moved down into a field box. And I get that some people live far away. And I see that, Zay Thomas, like I get that, you live in Little Rock. That's tough. I live in Waco, Texas right now. I can't go to any games, which stinks. Like when I'm back in St. Louis, you best believe I'm going to be at the games. It is also so disheartening to be watching on TV and see nobody at Busch Stadium, which I think is one of the most beautiful stadiums in MLB. I think it's a cathedral to baseball, and I think people should be there packing it out. I get that a team that's, not necessarily projected to go too far, they're not going to have 45,000 fans a night. But come on, let's not be under 20K. Like, that's embarrassing. You don't want to see that on TV. So everyone, I don't know how many people are hearing this and how many people it's going to change their minds, but go to the games. Like, they're so much fun. Get out there, just have some fun, sit in the bleachers, maybe grab a foul ball, go to batting practice, like do something fun, make a day of it. And go to the games, please. I know people have stuff to do. I get that. I don't work a full-time job in St. Louis yet. I'm in college. So I understand that. But
yeah, I mean, I'll defend the people that aren't. I don't know. It's a little bit hard to defend some of them because I do want to get out to games, right? Like I wish I'd gone out to one of the Angels games. I have Angels gear. I was gonna try to sneak Mike Trout's autograph. It didn't end up happening, but like this past week, the weather's been horrible. Like there was tornado warnings all morning today.
Yeah, nobody being at today's game makes sense. Like the weather was gross. Yeah, I get that.
It looks disgusting outside right now. I'm about to have to drive after this. I'm not looking forward to that. But like I don't blame anyone for going to some of these for not going to some of these games because like the weather's just not been very pleasant the last couple of days. And like it's the Angels. Mike Trout is exciting. He's a great player, but he's not the same Mike Trout that we saw maybe 5-6 years ago.
I don't think opposing teams should dictate attendance to the baseball games. You're here to watch the Cardinals.
That's true, but
I know not everyone like I know
my attendance sometimes.
Is a Dodgers fan on the side and he likes Shohei Ohtani and he'll go to those games and wear Ohtani gear, which is crazy.
Me? But I just want whatever.
But look. Don't make your decisions to go to games based on the opposing team. You're going to support the Cardinals.
Sure.
Wear Cardinals gear. Get out to the game. Like, if anything, I'd be more likely to go to an Angels game because I think we're going to win the game. That's why I'd be out there. So that's I just go to the games.
And I don't know. It was fun. Like I've had more fun watching this team than I have since 2022. And that's saying something because maybe it's not saying something because the teams haven't been that good. 2023 was just not a fun watch. 2024 was fun for a little bit and then not fun for the rest of the season. But I mean, even if this team isn't winning, like going and seeing what these guys can do, what Jordan Walker can do on any given day, or what Victor Scott can do, like these guys are exciting to watch, right? And we're seeing a lot of fight. They've scored the second most. They've scored the second most runs in the National League right now behind the Cubs, but the Cubs have played 3 more games, including those 2 in Japan against the Dodgers. So I'm not really counting that. So out of teams that haven't played a bunch of extra, and they've scored more than the Dodgers, who are 7-0, and they have that electric pitching staff, but that lineup is supposed to be really good too, right? So this team is doing a lot of things right. And I think and I hope that it's only a matter of time before we get a couple weeks into the season and Lars Nootbaar is still really good and Jordan Walker is starting to turn it on and become what we think he can be. Victor Scott is going to steal 60 bases and people start coming back to the ballpark, right? Like this team, I don't know, 2022 was really special, but this team has emerging stars on it as well. And I think people definitely, I don't know, maybe it's really gotten that bad where the ownership has turned turned fans off so much where this team probably can't win a World Series. This team might not be able to even win a playoff series, right? If they get to the playoffs and get stopped by the Phillies, I don't think fans are going to really get excited by that. Right.
Look, the thing is the playoffs are so random. The people that are like, oh, the Cardinals can't win a playoff series. Just get there and see what happens. That's what I say. But again, to push back, I don't even think it matters what this team does. I just think there's this general cloud of negativity surrounding the Cardinals right now. It's like last year, there was a 2-month stretch where they had the best record in the National League. They had a wild card spot. Not just they had the first wild card spot with a multiple game lead over the team in the second spot at one point. And still nobody was going to the games and still nobody was talking positively about the team.
Because it was a really fake. I'm not going to lie. It was very
You can
fake.
call it fake. You can call it fake, but Fake teams have made the playoffs and fake teams have made runs before. Also, as fake as you want to call it, we were 80 games, 100 games into the season at that point, and they'd done a lot of winning. They'd had a really fun year to that point. They were hot. They were winning a lot of home games. Like, call it what you will. You could talk to people around St. Louis and you could talk to Cardinals fans, and it just seemed like they hated the Cardinals. It seemed like they thought this team was going nowhere, and they were right. The Cardinals collapsed in August and September. But I think they collapsed I don't think they collapsed because they were a terrible team. I think they were flawed, and I think they couldn't hit with runners in scoring position. It was really frustrating. I don't think they were just like awful. I don't think they're awful this year. I get that 2023 was probably the worst season in franchise history, and relative to expectations coming into the year, it was really bad. Like, all of us thought the Cardinals were going to make the playoffs. A lot of people had the Cardinals winning the division, and they lost 91 games. Like, it was bad. But at the same time, they're still not a 100-loss team. They're still not the White Sox. We're not entering a decades-long rebuild. We're not the Pirates from the last 30 years, right? The Cardinals have won World Series in our lifetimes. They've been to the World Series 4 times in the last 2 decades. Like, we're all right. It's not like we're an incompetent franchise. The Cardinals have, even still, like, they've made more with less. The 2018 roster won like 84 games. That team stunk. The 2017 roster still had a winning record. That team was awful. The 2021 roster went to the playoffs, had an electric 17-game win streak. And go back and look at that lineup. Like, it's not a bunch of world beaters in there. Tyler O'Neill was great in the second half. I'll give him that. I'm just saying, like, the Cardinals are not a terrible franchise. There's so much negativity around the team, and I really don't get that. And also, again, like, to push back with some of these comments, like, I am a single 22-year-old male. Like, I'm going to the games alone or, like, meeting a friend there. So I don't get what it's like to have to bring a family to the game. So I understand that that's probably a different level of concern. But, like, St. Louis is not that big. I live way out in the suburbs, and I live 25 minutes from the stadium. Like, if you live far away, this doesn't apply to you. And if you've got a 3-hour round trip time, fine. But, like, the highway is right there. Like, it is 1 exit, 2 roads. I'm parking on Shoto Avenue. There's the secret. Parking on Shoto Avenue and walking to the game. Like, it is really easy to get there. Also, like, I'm not spending any money to park. I'm not spending any money on concessions. Like, you can, but there's really cheap concessions outside the stadium. And if it's that expensive, go to
Can I stop you for a quick moment so we don't leave our friend back here for another, like we did on the charity stream?
Yeah.
What's going on?
What's going on, guys?
What's up? Welcome in.
Now you can continue, because I was like,
Just saying, like, if it's that big a deal, just go to Cane's. It's $11 for a meal after the game. Just wait a little bit. Like, if you don't want to spend money at the stadium, that's fine, but that shouldn't be a reason not to go to the games. Like, it's not that expensive. I see people talking about running up like $400 tabs. I don't know how you're doing that.
I mean, you're going there, you're taking your whole family, you're buying 6 tickets, and you're buying a City Connect jersey, the team store, and then, I don't know. Hey, the Jacob Bosiakovic jersey in the team store, that's $200. If anyone buys that, I'm going to be really upset because you're wasting your money. That's mine, okay? Anyway. Yeah, I mean, at least with last year, the attendance being down even when the team was winning, the team, like, currently has a run differential of plus 17. I don't think the team had a plus 17 run differential at any point during.
No, they were frustrating last year.
Like, it was extremely frustrating to watch the team. And when they lose big. And when they win because they scored 2 runs and then Ryan Helsley.
Fun games, though. Close games late.
That's just, I don't know.
Who doesn't want to see the stadium go red and have Ryan Helsley walk in with Hell's Bells playing? That's elite.
That's true. But, like, I really enjoyed watching the game Sunday, right, when they just teed off Bailey Ober. And this Angels series has just been so anxiety-inducing. And I'm just like, oh, this is last year all over again. It's been fun.
If you had fought through and gone to the ballpark today, you would have seen Ivan Herrera hit 3 homers. And you know what? The Cardinals were 1 miscue away from a walk-off win in either of the first 2 games this season.
For sure.
Either of which would have been an elite game to attend.
That's true.
That's
Kareem,
right.
do you have any thoughts you wanted to chime in here?
The Cardinals won 4 out of 6. I think that's a win.
Yeah.
That's true.
Come on.
But yeah, about Herrera, I think he's certainly someone I think that the Cardinals should consider extending, potentially get a couple of years out of beyond his after arbitration, getting a couple of years after. So like what would that be? Like a 7-year contract, something like that. Oh, my bad with that. Yeah, I just think he's one of the more talented offensive players in the organization, and we saw that today. 3 home runs, really special.
Do you think they could, like, do you think they ever would lock him up? Like, you see some of these other extensions getting signed around the league. Christian Campbell got announced recently. I saw Jackson Merrill sign. Was that earlier today or yesterday? Like, other teams are locking up their homegrown talent. Could you see the Cardinals making a move like that?
I would like to see it.
Do you think they would, though?
I can't remember the last time the Cardinals did something like that.
Gotta be DeYoung,
Paul
right?
DeYoung.
But yeah, it feels like it's been a while. But obviously, with their change of regime, with Bloom coming in, I feel like that's something they should consider. Whether it's Mason Wynn, I know Victor Scott's had a great start to this year. Herrera, like I mentioned, so there's a lot of young talent that I'd like to see extended and beyond just their 6 years.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that. I think they're waiting for Bloom to take over, which could be a mistake with some of these guys, especially with Lars Nootbaar and Jordan Walker. I could see both of them having really good years this year, and like their prices will go up significantly after that. Like I bet after last season, Jordan Walker would have taken a big extension because it just didn't go well for him, and that would have been a little bit weird, especially because he had like a 500 or so OPS throughout the season, and it just didn't look good. But I mean, look at what he's doing right now, and I'm not saying he's going to sustain that throughout the season and be one of the best hitters in all of baseball, but like that's a bat that could be heart of the order and probably should be if this team is going to have any future success with homegrown talent going forward. Like I could see Jordan Walker being a huge part of this team going forward. And Lars Nootbaar, I think, honestly, he might just hit free agency and go sign with the Dodgers and play with all his friends. But I'm going to enjoy every minute that we have of him here because he just seems like the kind of guy that would bet on himself. But so I don't know if he would take an extension. But, I mean, I really want to offer it to him right now because he just looks really, really good. But I do think that the new regime might, like, I don't know. Is Bloom in charge of the major league roster right now? He's not. And I'm sure he has input. Oh, Sandy just got an email. And another one. So I don't know if Bloom really wants to start off with if Mo's going to give him a clean slate. And I think that's probably what's for the best. Because he's down in the minor leagues trying to revamp all of that. And I've seen a lot of really interesting and really exciting stuff going on with some of the pitch tracking technology. And I think Kareem could probably speak more to what he's doing down there and probably give a more insightful take on that. But I think he's got his hands full with a lot of that right now. So I'm not quite sure that I want to hand out an extension that could go wrong, right? Like Lars Nootbaar could sign a big extension and be terrible. Like I don't think that's going to happen, but it's definitely a possibility. That's happened in the past with like a Carpenter or a DeYoung, where the last couple of extensions that the Cardinals have handed out and Miles Mikolas have just not been good, right? It's just that I can't think of an extension within the last 5 or 6 years that the Cardinals have handed out, and they've handed out a few. And Giovanni Gallegos got an extension.
Ali.
Well, yeah, the Ollie extension is great. Like, we love that. But, like, they've handed out some small ones. They haven't done it with, like, a franchise player, and that's kind of because they haven't developed a franchise player. Like, Mason Wynn has had one great year, and he's off to a terrible start, which doesn't make me feel good that he can keep it going. Like, I hopefully he get it back on track after what was a rough spring and a rough start to the season. He got 2 hits today. One of them was a fake hit. One of them was a bunt. So, like, I don't know how much we can say that he's truly going to break out, but he was hitting the ball better this week against the Angels than he was against the Twins. But like Jackson Merrill and Victor Scott are 2 different players. Like Jackson Merrill would have won Rookie of the Year literally any other season, where if Paul Skeens didn't have a generational year. And who's the other? Christian Campbell is like a top 15 prospect in the league. Like the Cardinals have one of those right now. Like maybe they'll do that with JJ in a year or two when he's getting ready to be called up. But like Jordan Walker was the number one prospect in all of baseball, but he wasn't that like right away. Like I feel like those are two different tiers of prospects where like a Campbell seems more like a can't miss kind of guy where Walker kind of worked his way up.
Just can't miss though. Like
well,
he was the number one prospect in all of baseball.
And if you had extended Walker to that sort of deal, like after year two, you would have been like, oh, what a mistake. And maybe it turns out to be a bargain if you had done that. But like
it annoys me. It annoys me that the Cardinals make such a big deal about small amounts of money. Like they're such penny pinchers about the most random things. They go to arbitration with guys. They refuse to think about a raise for a guy like Jack Flaherty in pre-arb years where he's awesome. You know, it feels like
that went well too, right? Like I'm not mad that Jack Flaherty got away. Like it's
but also like how different could it have been if his relationship with the team hadn't soured? You know, and also Jack Flaherty is pitching really well right now for the last 2 years. So that's got to count for something too. The thing is, the Paul DeJong contract, if that contract scares you away from extending guys, you need to reevaluate because you're not a big league franchise. I'm sorry. If you can't hang after signing the Paul DeJong extension, which by the way, like he was pretty bad afterwards, but he wasn't completely unplayable for more than once. He had one awful season, but like the year we traded him at the deadline, he was fine, you know, good enough, like almost replacement level. It wasn't the end of the world. And the thing never escalated past $13 million, which is less than they're paying Miles Mikolas right now. It's about what they paid Steven Matz. It's less than they paid Adam Wainwright to be the worst pitcher in baseball in 2023. Like, I just don't understand why that scares you away from signing any more deals. Now, maybe you're right. Maybe they feel like they haven't had a candidate to sign that with. And that's it's a whole nother topic. The Cardinals' inability to develop stars or attract stars. And like, we could get into that. Maybe it's a branding issue. There's a lot of problems there. But the fact is, like, if they're going to get scared by an extension like that and not sign another one, it's not a serious organization. You have to do it. And sometimes they don't work. But like, are Mariners fans still complaining about the Evan White extension? No, they moved on. Like they got over it. It wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't that much money.
Oh, you're muted.
Oh, yeah, I agree with Sandy. Obviously, there's some risk, especially if, you know, someone hasn't played a ton at the major league level. Like you were talking about with the Evan White extension. Maybe that was a little premature, but especially with guys like a Victor Scott, a Mason Wynn that, you know, can provide steady defense at the very least. I think having that in their profile, obviously offensively, there could be some variance, but you're not paying this guy to be a star player. Yeah. Campbell, for example, it was an 8-year deal, $60 million. Obviously, you're paying for some of those years where he's going to be paid league minimum, and then obviously arbitration years. But that's still not a whole lot of money. And then getting a couple years of free agency too. I don't know. It's something I would like to see the Cardinals explore with some of their players. And yeah.
You extend the clock on these guys too. Like you pry your window open for a championship. It's really hard to open a championship window, right? Like it takes you have to coordinate a lot of things. You got to bring guys up at the exact same time. You have to bring in free agents. And like the timetable is very small because the clock starts ticking the minute these guys get to the big leagues, and you only get 6 years. And if you're a franchise that can't extend people, that's all you get. And if that's the case, like Lars Nootbaar, already in arbitration. Tyler O'Neill was through arbitration for the most part, and he's gone. You know, like if you'd been able to lock him up young, never would have had any problems dealing with arbitration, never would have traded him. It would have been fine. Everything would have been fine. And you might still have him around. Instead, you couldn't lock him up. Whatever, he leaves, right? And I know the injuries are a thing with Tyler O'Neill. I get that. I hear that. But like Tyler O'Neill is a really good hitter, and he can't be on your team right now because you couldn't figure out how to keep him. The same thing goes for a pitcher like Jack Flaherty, who I really do think had the Cardinals been able to extend him early, it might have looked a lot different. His relationship with the team might not have soured, and you could keep those guys around and you could build a real championship window by keeping these guys around longer. You're already running out of time with Lars Nootbaar. You're already running out of time with Jordan Walker and Nolan Gorman, who are in their third year of service time now. Like, I think that's a big deal. Nolan Gorman actually came up in 2022 for a little bit. So, you know, you might be close to year 4 with him. Like, that's a real concern. Andre Palante had some time as a reliever. He's been on the roster a long time. Like, he's already headed towards arbitration. And then also, if you can sign these guys to extensions, they don't get more expensive. So you don't have to factor that in for future stuff. Like, you just sign them, and maybe the contract escalates. It does in a lot of cases. But, you don't have to worry about, like, we don't know how much this guy's going to make, man. Like, if he has a great year, it's going to be really hard for us to bring in more talent. It's set. I think that's a big deal. You might have been able to keep Tommy Edman around had you figured out how to extend him. He definitely wouldn't have gotten as much money as he has now. I mean, that matters for a team like the Cardinals, who have serious payroll concerns. So I just think, like, it's really smart for these other teams to do it. The Braves would already have guys reaching free agency had they not signed all those young contracts. But instead, their championship core is going to stick around forever in Atlanta. Like Austin Riley, Sean Murphy. I know, like, they didn't acquire.
Are they 0-7 now?
But I get that. Yeah. Acuna, Albies, right? Like, these guys are studs, and they're going to keep them around forever because they managed to sign these contracts and lock them into favorable deals. That's what the Cardinals have to figure out how to do, or else it's just going to be the same thing where you finally bring up a couple of good players and then they're gone before the next wave of prospects is there to join them.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I mean, to some extent, like with Jack Flaherty, I don't think he would have not gotten hurt if his relationship with the team was better. I think he probably still would have gotten hurt and still had some of the same issues towards the end. Like, that's not something that you can necessarily control. But I do think they need to be a little bit more aggressive with some of these guys. And I mean, I kind of want to hit on the Tommy Edman point, like just to digress a little bit with Tommy Edman, because like I genuinely like I'm happy for Tommy Edman. He won his World Series with the Dodgers. Now he's a star caliber player kind of over there. I mean, I think everyone on that team just gets a lot of attention. So
and it helps to hit with that much protection and that little sure.
But like there's no spot for Tommy Edman on this roster. Like, I don't think I would rather have him over Mason Wynn or Victor Scott or Brendan Donovan, right? Like, I mean, and he's getting up there, and he's getting up there in age where it's like, I don't know how well that skill set's gonna last, like how long that skill set's gonna last. And you have these homegrown guys. Tommy Edman's going to continue to get more expensive through free agency and arbitration or whatever. The Dodgers paid him a lot of money. Could you have gotten more for him? Maybe, and like capitalize on his value when he wasn't like hurt. And I mean, you still got Eric Fetty, which I think you probably could have gotten something better if teams knew what Tommy Edman would have turned into in the playoffs. But like, I'm not too upset with that at this point, because I see a few people.
I'm just using that to toss.
No, I know. I'm just saying I'm trying to address some of the comments I'm seeing about. Oh, and Josh is in here. We got everybody.
Welcome back.
The whole crew.
Welcome back.
That was sketchy there for a moment, lads.
Oh, boy.
Well, it's good to know the old Bloomington Normal's doing all right.
Oh, gosh. Not around here, though. Yikes. That was brutal. We're in the basement, and my dog has never wanted to go in the basement before because it's unfinished. We keep him out. And now we had to bring him down there. And now the second we come back up, all he wants to do is walk back down there now. We're like, no. But
new territory.
Well. New territory. What'd I miss?
A lot. We talked about attendance. Now we're talking about the Cardinals' inability to sign extensions.
Did you guys see that thing I just sent you in the chat? I thought it was interesting. That someone was theorizing that all these early extensions might be coming out because young players are afraid of a strike coming. And so get your money now rather than wait it out. And I'm like, I'm not saying that's for sure, but I'm like, that honestly wouldn't be shocked if people are thinking that right now.
That'd be crazy.
By the way, I do have to dip out. It is my time to go. But Kareem, do you want to tease Birds on the Farm returning tomorrow potentially?
Ooh.
Yeah, so we'll start posting weekly for Birds on the Farm starting tomorrow. I think we're going to go back to the Tuesday schedule after that, but once a week, hopefully, talk about the latest updates of that week, some of the top players in the organization for the week, mailbag, stuff like that. Really excited to start that. The minor league season starts for all the Cardinals affiliates besides AAA. We've been playing AAA games for the past week, but AA, high A, single A starts on Friday. And this year we actually have broadcasts for Palm Beach for their home games for the first time, which is pretty exciting. So we can see all of the Cardinals affiliates in full season ball now, which is obviously fun. And I can't wait to see, all these teams kick off their season on Friday.
Is there anything specific you're like keeping a close eye on as the minor league seasons outside of Memphis get rolling? Like anything specific in whether it's in Palm Beach or Peoria or Springfield?
I'm just interested to see who ends up starting and who ends up in the bullpen, especially, down at Palm Beach. They're interesting names like Nolan Sparks. We had him on the podcast,
Sure.
Michael Watson. There are a bunch of names, especially down at the lower levels, where I'm still not 100% sure if they're going to start or if they're going to relieve. Zach Showalter, someone that got stretched out a little bit in spring, is he going to finally make starts again? So I think that's something I'm going to be watching early in the season, who's being stretched out, who's starting games. And yeah, I would say that's my one thing that I'm going to be watching this first week.
Nice. Did you guys, I'm guessing you guys saw the Ketel Marte thing already.
Yeah, it was in the chat.
Okay.
Ketel Marte extended. Good move for the Diamondbacks. Always good to keep your stars around. Yeah. Love to see the Cardinals.
Did you guys talk about Herrera extension? I know Kareem's been spamming it. What was the number?
We haven't put a number.
I don't have a number, but
I don't think the Cardinals will actually extend Herrera. So.
Yeah. No. Especially considering, I don't think they view him as a long-term catcher, which kind of sucks. But with Jimmy Crooks coming up, I know they're super high on him, and he's looked great early in the Memphis season. Pedro Pajes, you could say what you want about him. He's, in my opinion, he's looked good defensively. And offensively, I know it's early in the season, but he's showing a little bit more promise than he did last year.
Much better.
So yeah, and then Leo Bernal, Reinel Rodriguez, there's a lot of catching talent in the organization. And I feel like if Herrera doesn't take the steps up in his throwing arm, and early this season, it hasn't looked great, if we're being honest. So maybe his long-term position isn't at that catching spot. But yeah, I'm in love with his offensive profile, and today it was fully on display. And I feel like when you have that middle of the order threat, leave the catching stuff on the back burner. Let's just talk about him offensively for a second. He's one of the more impressive offensive players that has come through the organization, in my opinion. And last year, over a pretty big sample, I think he put up 120 WRC plus
120. I think it's 128 or
128
or OPS plus. I know. So
yeah, and I think he has the potential to be even more than that. I think the power is going to keep on, continue to ascend, and we really saw that today. And yeah, he's a really impressive young player.
Yeah, because if you look at his homers per plate appearance last year, it's 1 per 60, which, I mean, he had some gap to gap power last year, hit a lot of doubles, but you could be talking about a guy that as the power ticks up, his ISO could go up a little bit, and you could see, 140 OPS plus, WRC plus potentially. He's legit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what even is the potential? If he's not a catcher, is it basically just first base is the only other option? I mean, I don't know if he has the lateral quickness to play an infield role. And with that arm outside second base, I don't know what he could do. And I would doubt you'd move him to a corner outfield with that arm. So,
isn't catching arm a little different though than throwing from your I feel like it's a little different. There's so much more that goes into throwing out a base runner than just arm strength. His pop time's a problem, his accuracy's a problem. But maybe if he's thrown off his feet from left field, it wouldn't be the end of the world. But they already have too many corner outfielders. So
yeah. But I mean, if to your Kareem's point, if his bat's this good, whose bat would you take over him of the young Cardinals right now?
Nobody.
Are we still considering Newt Young?
Yeah, probably I would still count him in that.
Probably Newt.
Newt, Donnie, Burley.
Outside
of
Nootbaar, what Cardinal? And I'm not saying you can say this yet about Herrera, but Jordan Walker was great in 2023, and then big step back last year. Nolan Gorman was great his first full season, big step back. Donovan was great in 2022, small steps back each of the last 2 years. Wynn was great last year, step back this year already. Who have you seen put it together 2 years in a row to start their career coming out of the system? Even Nootbaar, where when he's on the field, it's awesome, but the injury questions are just you can't even ignore it with him anymore. Who have we seen really maintain production for a second year? And it's not guaranteed. Herrera could be terrible for the next 3 weeks, but right now it sure looks like he's taking another step forward. Who have you seen do that?
I mean, I think the best example is Donovan and Nootbaar because they've mostly maintained. It's not like they didn't do the Walker Gorm thing where they fell off. They had they dropped by 7 points in WRC plus or OPS plus, which is, I mean, it's regression, but it's not a huge deal. And then in Nootbaar's case too, to your point, it's like, well, the time missed seems to play a role in this. Well, Donovan, and also, I mean, you can argue that for Donovan too, where he's playing his best baseball before the elbow surgery.
Yeah.
He basically misses the entire offseason going into 2024. He starts off the season a little slow, kind of has some ups and downs. So it's kind of, and he acknowledged a little bit like, yeah, it changed his offseason program and he was a little late to hitting and all of that. So you could argue for both of them, actually, injuries have potentially played a role in that. When like a Gorman or a Walker, you can't make that same excuse. But yeah, I mean, fun times, guys. I mean, it's just, man, keep the vibes up. Keep the vibes up.
Lots to be excited about.
Yeah. So I don't know, anything else you guys want to talk about? Sorry, I jumped in late, so I don't even know what y'all covered, but I tried to catch little bits of it, but then there's like sirens blaring in my ears. I'm like, this is brutal.
But does Sonny Gray have a homer problem? Let's talk about that, right? It was bad in spring training, gave up another one today. Like, I
don't think he's had a single outing without a home run this year.
He hasn't,
including spring.
He hasn't. So it's a little scary, a little dicey when you're talking about the guy who had the lowest home run rate in all of baseball 2 years ago in Minnesota, comes to a more pitcher-friendly park, and he's serving them up left and right.
I don't know what you guys feel about this, but the second home run, I kind of felt bad for him today because clearly, like, they were down bullpen arms today. Yes. And so they needed him, like, badly to get through another inning if possible. And so, like, you can, I don't know how you guys felt about them not pulling him with the bases loaded. It's one of those situations where it's like, you're like, either way, it's a tough call. Like, if you bring in the arm there, and he could have given, like, if it was Maton there, he could have given up some runs and it didn't really matter. And I mean, you end up bringing Maton in anyways. So I felt for Ollie there. I wasn't mad that he didn't pull him. I probably would have done it, but it's also like, well, what do you do if Maton ends up being shelled too? But I mean, at the same time, if you give up a grand slam there, that changes the game. So I can go both sides on it, but I feel bad for Sonny giving up that second home run because I think at that point you could tell he needed to be pulled from the game. But I don't know.
Do you think two things there though? Like, as the ace of the team, you got to be able to go through 6 innings. Like, I love Sonny Gray. I'm a big supporter of his, but like the criticism last year that a lot of people leveled was that he didn't pitch deep enough into games. And I blame the Cardinals for that. I said there are a lot of times when it looks like he could go further and they pull him. But like, you got to be able to pitch 6 innings. And I know it's early in the season, he's stretching out and he had a rough spring training. So like, there's grace there, but come on, like, you got to be able to get through the 6th here. It's a weak Angels lineup. The other thing is do you think they could have gone to Mats today or no? 4 innings, but it was 4 days ago now. Could they have gone to Mats for 2?
Wasn't it 3 days ago?
I think
it was a little.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no off day. You're probably right then.
No, but I wanted to touch on Sonny Gray a little bit. I thought his stuff looked much better today than it did throughout spring in his first start. His velocity was up like 1 mile an hour on all of his pitches pretty much, which is, great sign to see. I thought he was getting a ton of swing and miss. That sweeper was looking really good. I tweeted out a video of him striking out Mike Trout on 3 consecutive sweepers. I mean, he had that pitch working, awesome. And obviously had that one rough inning towards the end. But I think for the most part, he looked pretty good today. I think it was a step in the right direction for him. And if he can keep that stuff up, I think we're looking at, a pretty good pitcher.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree at all. And the 9 strikeouts paired with 0 walks was fantastic. And like, if Sonny Gray is going to be a good pitcher, he can't walk anybody, right? Like, that's been one of his calling cards in years past, is a low walk rate. So it's good to see him maintain that this year. But the home run thing it's got to scare me a little bit, because it was a serious problem in spring. It was a serious problem last year. And to give up 1 on opening day and give up 2 now, I want to see a clean start. I want to see no homers in one of these.
Yeah, I think to your point, the second, like him not getting through the 6th today, that part doesn't bug me because if it's early in the season. And again, like he's admitted his offseason program got started late, his throwing program in spring got started late. Like, he doesn't seem to be a guy who's fully there yet. I mean, I think we even said going into the season, none of us would be shocked if he hit the IL just because what he was looking. So like, for him not to get through 6, not too big of a concern. If we get to the end of May though, and that's still a problem, then I'm right there with you. Like, he's got to figure that out. And then, you can't ignore the home run ball right now, but it's encouraging that everything else seems to look good. And so it's like, I don't think this is a guy that's going to blow up into like a unplayable 5th starter, but like, is he going to give you the front end talent that you need at the top of a rotation? It's tough when he basically can't allow base runners because there's always the threat of a bomb coming right now. And that's a tough spot to be in. But again, when you're striking guys out the rate he can, for the most part, limiting base runners outside of the home run ball, he's going to at least be effective. It's just, is he going to be the Sonny Gray that they signed him to be, or is he going to be like a middle of the rotation low end number 2 guy. I don't know. That home run thing's got to be figured out. But
is it just one pitch though? That's like, because today the one to Ohapi, the grand slam was on his sinker, and it was a terrible pitch. I mean, it was hung like right over above the strike zone, and it was absolutely hammered. Is it the same? Is it also his sinker everywhere else? Is he just elevating that, or is it a mix? Because if it's a mix, that scares me more than if it's just one pitch that he can kind of lock in. It looks like the homer he gave up to Trout was on a curveball that was kind of hung. So maybe it's just a little bit of everything, and he'll just sharpen up as time goes. Just some weird misses. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, last year he gave up home runs on just about every pitch he threw.
Yeah.
And, like 6 against four seamers, 3 against sweepers, 6 against sinkers, 3 against cutters, 2 against curveballs, 1 against change. Like I think with him, like he sometimes gets a little bit too aggressive in the zone, and that could work to his detriment. And I think continuing to work on that. I thought that just watching him last year, I felt like sometimes he was a little bit too much in the middle of the zone to where hitters would do damage against his stuff. But it's not just one pitch, like it's his whole arsenal that can get touched up a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like the sinker and the curveball today got hit for the home runs. And then their line drive hard hit balls off the sinker, the cutter, and the 4-seam fastball. Actually, not the sinker, the 4-seam fastball and the cutter today. So the Baseball Savant hasn't totally updated the numbers for the season yet, but you can go to the game report. Yeah, it's tough, but we'll see what happens there. I mean, are you, I guess, Kareem, from your perspective, we're one in, I guess, part of a second time through the rotation so far. Overall, have you liked what you've seen from the starters? I feel like they seem more effective than what maybe they actually have, or the box score is better than maybe what we've seen on the mound, if that makes sense. But it's still, I mean, it's not bad though. But what's been your kind of thought process on the rotation so far?
Yeah, through 2 starts, I think Sonny Gray looks pretty similar to what we had seen last year. I think he seems to project to be around that. What was it, 3.8 ERA? We'll see how the rest of the season goes. But just based on his first 2 starts, I think he seems like someone that's going to be more so in that range than, dating back to, his couple of years prior where he was close to a 3 ERA. But Eric Fetty, he looked solid. Michaelis looked better than I thought he would. Liberatore, I'm still a little bit skeptical on Liberatore, to be honest. I know that 6 innings, 3 runs isn't a bad start. He got roughed up in 1 inning pretty much, but I didn't think he looked particularly great. I mean, the velocity after those first 2 innings was down. He was living more so in the 93 range on that fastball. And I think he was using his 4-seam and sinker way too much for, his arsenal to play. And he was living in the zone a little bit too much. I know we talked about that. But am I missing someone?
Palante. Did you talk about Palante?
Oh, Palante. Yeah, Palante's velocity is back, which is great to see. I think he should be able to provide pretty good value as a middle rotation piece, in my opinion. So, I mean, overall, it's pretty much what I expected going into the season. Nothing crazy. I'll be interested to see how much of a leash Matthew Liberatore gets. If he's really starting to struggle these next few starts, are they going to move Steven Matz back to the rotation? Or, what their plan is with the 6-man rotation? Does Michael McGreevy get that spot up? But yeah, that's really my thoughts. I think I think Michaelis looked a lot better than I thought, but aside from him, I think I've expected these pitchers to pitch the way that they have so far.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see like with the Liberatore side of things. Like obviously it's one series where you went to extra innings twice, and so it's going to burn and tax a bullpen no matter what. But I wonder if there's a world here where they're like, we need another guy in the back of this bullpen that can do something. And Liberatore's kind of, I mean, from the left side specifically against lefties, he's shown that. I think his stuff plays up a little bit more to righties in the bullpen. All of his hits yesterday again came off of right-handed hitters. Like he just can't figure out how to do it. It's really frustrating. But I wonder if there's a world where they even start to go, okay, we need your arm back in that bullpen. And we're not seeing enough in the rotation right now to make it worth it. But again, Matz could fill that role too. But clearly, again, they used him for 4 innings the other day. So
I did like the Mats for 4 innings though to save the rest of the pen. I feel like that put them in a really good position for this.
Yeah, for sure.
As long as my bad for cutting you off there.
No,
but
you're good.
Yeah, as long as Livy holds his own, if he can consistently give you 6 innings, 3 runs, I don't think they're going to move him off the rotation. But I am a little bit worried that, it could get rough in these next few starts. So
yeah,
just we should watch to see, what that looks like, if he's, augmenting his pitch usage and, stuff like that, because I didn't think I don't think the way he performed his first start of the season is sustainable for long-term success.
Yeah. I think honestly, so far the team is playing right now like I thought last year's team was going to, where it's like the offense can carry you, the bullpen's like a strength, but maybe not like an elite strength. The bullpen ended up being better last year than I thought it'd be. I thought it'd be good, but not that good. And the rotation's the part where you're like, we'll see. And so far the rotation's been fine, but also to your point, Kareem, I'm like, I wouldn't be surprised if Michaelis Libby, Palante to an extent. I think Palante and Fetty will both be effective, but I don't see them being top tier guys, obviously. So, and if you can't rely on Gray to give you that every 5th day, then things can get a little dicey from the starters, which then starts to impact your bullpen. We saw in 2023, right, where the Cardinals rotation was so bad that even good arms of the bullpen in 2023 were just getting burned out. And so, we'll see, but you like what you see from the offense at the very least. And the defense has mostly been good too. Like Donnie had that blunder the other day, which is whatever.
Yeah, not characteristic.
Yeah, for sure. It's not like, Walker's not been bad so far, right? Like it's been fine. Scott, there's been some great plays. Some like that ball, that double in extra innings the other night, I thought wasn't the best route in the world, and then he bobbled it too, which I don't think would have mattered for any of the runs on the bobble specifically, but there's been some stuff there. But
yeah, I think Scott, some of his jumps on balls haven't been, the best so far. I've really noticed that. It hasn't hurt him yet, especially when you've got the speed that he does. But I feel like over the course of a season, there might be some plays where, you're scratching your head, but so far it's all checked out. But would like to see him take better routes to the ball for sure.
This is probably a little like old manish of me, but like, do you think that with a guy like Scott, who's just that athletic and that fast, he hasn't really had to develop like great route running, or, he hasn't had to have a great jump because he just can rely on that athleticism to make, plays. And even if he doesn't take the best route to a ball, he still just has the athleticism, the raw athleticism to make eye-popping plays in center field. Like, do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know for sure, but when you have the kind of speed that Victor Scott has, you don't necessarily have to take the best routes to get to every ball. And, we've seen that so far this year. It's not to say that every ball that's hit to him, he's taking a poor route on, but you would like to see it be a little bit more consistent.
I think the nice thing there is, though, it's like you can't teach speed. You can teach route running. So there's room for growth with a guy like Scott. It's not like somebody that's out there that's doing everything right and they're making the plays they should make, but there's just balls they're never going to be able to get to. Whereas with Scott, it's like, hey, the room for growth is really there. And he's got the raw stuff that you just can't teach, which is really nice.
I just saw Sonny Gray 22 swings and misses today. Whew.
That's a lot.
I love to see that. So, oh man. Anything else on the way out, guys? Man, hour 20. What a pod.
Yeah, lots to talk about.
Love that. Again, Boston this weekend. Any predictions for that? You got Christian Campbell on his big new deal and all that.
Yeah.
Cards take 2 out of 3.
I like it. Who are the probables? It's Fetty, Palante, Michaelis for the Cardinals. I don't know who's going up for. Gosh, if they have to face Crochet, oof. Ooh. I'd like the test. It'd be interesting to see how they fared off an elite lefty. But
all right, it's Bueller Friday.
Okay.
Richard Fitz Saturday.
Okay. And Sean Newcomb Sunday. Ooh.
Former Brave.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Baker Bomb potentially.
Baker Bomb.
I mean, it's the Red Sox have a sneaky strong roster. Like there's a lot to like up there. But I'll take 2 or 3 for the Cardinals. We love playing in Boston. Remember in 2023 when the Cards got that big sweep in Boston? It was like they're waking up. It was such a fun series. They came back and beat Kenley Jansen twice. It was awesome.
Yeah, I'll say 2 of 3 too. I am monitoring though. Man, last year they were really bad against lefties. They put up 3 on Tyler Anderson and 3 on Kikuchi, which is not bad, like better than what they did last year. But it feels like this lineup, when you've got a righty in right now, they're feasting. But Baker obviously has been great.
They had a lot of chances though against, well, not against Kikuchi, but against Anderson. I felt like they had a lot of chances.
Yeah, I feel like the problem is they don't have the lineup depth. Like against a righty, pretty much everyone in the lineup right now can hit. And then against a lefty, you've got like 4 guys who are really good against lefties, and everyone else. Again, this is from carried over from last year. I think just Nootbaar, Contreras, Baker, and Wynn were above average hitters, and they're well above average, and everyone else is below average or really bad. And so that it's tough to string together offense consistently when you go through 4 guys and the next 5 are like, we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I think Ivon can be better. Like I think.
Like getting him
with Contreras not getting off to that, you want him to be your master against lefties, him and Baker. And, Baker's had a pretty good start to the season against lefties so far.
Yeah.
But if Contreras is hitting the way he can, I think we'll be fine against lefties.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's something I'm at least monitoring. I wonder if the team so far. A couple. So, but actually, it's kind of like last year. There's 5 guys who've been awesome, and everyone else has sucked. Like not even been good. It's like Herrera has a 2,000 OPS right now against lefties. Newt, Scott, Arenado, and Baker all over 1,000, and then Donovan on down is 600 or below. So we'll see. It's super small sample size. So, anyways, good stuff today. Excited for the weekend. I think we're all predicting 2 of 3. I don't know what Andrew's prediction is, but we'll 2 of 3. He's saying 2 of 3. So. Yeah, throw him in here for the last.
Oh, there he is.
I didn't actually have to. The thing I was going to go to is delayed because of all the tornado nonsense. So this is great. We're doing great out here in St. Louis and Illinois and
Midwest. Fun times.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in for another episode of Dealing the Cards. Again, check out 314 Sports Cards and Collectibles. Check out the link in our description for Underdog Sports if you want to play on there, and use our promo code CARDS for first time deposit offer of our bonus up to $1,000 in bonus cash, and then also a first free pick'em. We'll be back on Sunday with a reaction to the Red Sox series. And again, make sure to go check out Birds on the Farm, which is starting again weekly with the minor league season getting underway. Thanks, Cream, for jumping in. Thanks, guys, for holding down the fort while I was in the basement. And we'll see you guys next time. Thanks, Ivon.